Welcome back to my channel. Do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button. I'm your host, Hezekiah Judah, and today we are doing part 5 of the struggle series called Fake Foods. I have been sitting on this for a few weeks, so I just want you all to know that this little disclaimer is you just might want to just put your headphones on and just go about your day as normal. It's just a podcast anyway, so there's not really much for you to see. I do post the scriptures at the beginning of the podcast and at the end. And as well, I will read them throughout the podcast, so you could do as you please. So let's start. If you ride the wave of someone else, you might as well sit aside the disappointment to come, because the only people that should be getting worship and praise is God and Jesus. They do everything. Fake food gets you to take a seat at the wrong table because it resembles what the real table looks like with real food sitting on it. The difference is the healthiness of the food that you are going to be putting in your mouth. So let's start this off with the two different dreams that I had. And the first dream, God placed two different tables before me. One table had all the fake teachers, leaders, and prophets sitting at them. And another table was this one pastor who God was backing. And he told me to choose from between the two tables. And I chose the pastor that was sitting by himself. And I took his table because he was backed by God. And then in another dream, I had walked into this cafeteria. And I walked up to the table, and before I got to sit down, I was looking at how people was walking around. I thought it was kind of strange too, because they were just walking around like servers was walking around. You had some people who was going up to like the counter and they was able to get their own food, and then other people was being served by these servers that was walking around and placing food in front of them, and it was giving them their utensils and everything to eat with. Now this young lady, I walked up and I seen her, and she had just got her food, and I asked her, how do you get food? Do I go up and get the food, or do I just sit down? And she said, well, the people that's been here longer are allowed to go up and get their own plate and their own food. And she's like, I only been here a couple of weeks, but after you be here for like 3 or 4 weeks, you can go up and get your own food. And she said, with you being new, you just have to do what I do. You sit down, and a waiter will come past, and she'll give you the plate of food, and they'll give you the utensils to eat with. But then I started seeing some people with like dessert as well, and I was like, well, how do you get dessert? And she said, well, you have to eat the food first. So I sat down at the table, and I looked at her, and I asked her, I said, well, because I was watching people, they were just like eating the food without like actually looking at the food. So I asked the young lady, I said, well, how do it taste? And she said, it really doesn't really taste good, whatever, but I'm just eating it, hurrying up and eat it so that I can get to the dessert. And I was like, okay, is it that bad? And she's like, well, not really. So you get used to it after, eating it so many times. So the waiter came up to me, and she looked at me, and she asked me, what are you doing here? And I was like, is there a problem? But she was like, well, you're not supposed to be here. She said, but you know what? I'm going to serve you anyway. Here go the plate of food. She put the plate of food in me, and she gave me the utensil. But as I was looking at the food, I was like, okay, there's something wrong with this food. Then I looked closer. I'm not going to lie. It was like an eyeball. It was some skin. It was some hair in there, nails, glass. And my eyes got big, and I'm looking at everybody else. I'm like, they just eating this stuff, and this is nothing good in this food. And it was nasty and looking. And I was like, I'm not eating this food. Like the dessert cannot be that good for me to just sit here and want to eat this. So I just got up and was like, "Oh, I'm out of here." And I left. So the thing about the tables, the two tables, is that you can't take a seat at this table and just try the food and then get up. You have to make a decision before you actually eat the food, because once you eat the food, you get trapped at that table. There's no getting up from that table. um I do remember this guy telling his story about how he it was actually his testimony. He had went through something, a traumatic event, and he was praying while he was going through this traumatic event. And I think you can actually find his story too, because it's through social Dallas, and it's posted on there with the two reformed gay man that is now serving a purpose and trying to get people to come out of that lifestyle. Now, it was something important that he said that caught my attention, was that he said while he was praying, it was like the Holy Spirit was telling him, you know, say your prayer a different way. And it was as if he had to rephrase his prayer in order to find himself like worthy enough to be saved in that moment. And he's living now to tell that testimony. But it gave me this thought, and it reminded me of the story how how Jesus stepped over other people at the whirling pool as they was waiting to get in to get healed. And this man was sitting there, he was crippled. And it reminds me that, you think, how did Jesus know to save this man? And God and Jesus, they can hear our thoughts, and they can see our hearts. So they know the true intentions of us. And I do believe in that moment that the guy, because he was still trying, he still had hope that he was, found worthy enough to still be saved, and not just, Jesus walking over him and going, just all walking past him. And it's just as if you got to think about the storms that you're going to go through, because you see in the Bible how Jesus was going to walk past the disciples as they were in this boat struggling and going through this storm. And God gives you these tools. Jesus is walking with you in your journey, and it's not that he's not going to want to help you. You got to at least attempt and try with the tools and that he's giving you. That's why the Bible is there, and this is why you have teachers of, they say the law, the Bible, God's word, and what God's given them. But some pastors are not saying everything that God has told them to say, because most people don't like to hear the truth, and it's hard for them to hear the truth, so they want to go with something sugary. Now remember, when you go with something that's like if you're eating candy or something, or you eating too much of anything, it could be very harmful, hurtful to your growth and your body. So to keep a healthy balance, you always should be rotating your meals. And that's the same thing with your journey. You should always be underneath, in order to always be going in the direction of the way of God's will and where he wants you to go. You need to be able to discern between what is the actual thing versus what is not, what is fake and what is real. And God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit can help you with that. Most people, they say that they have discernment, but they never realize that there's levels to it. You have people that, and nobody is, since this is like unlimited, nobody really knows those levels or when it stops. And I do believe that whenever it stops, it's basically your time to go. Like when I feel like once you stop growing and learning, is you're getting called home, because we're supposed to be forever growing and learning with God and Jesus in our relationship with them. Now, fake food has you believing that since God got you out, that it is okay to do the bare minimum or go for the best way out for you, as long as it is still considered to be under God's law. Like getting married so that you can avoid going to war. What I mean by this is that you believe that you are safe since your interest has become divided. Then you will use God's law against him to avoid what he has called you to do before you went and got married. Remember that ignoring him is a form of disobedience. So whenever you choose for yourself, you need to understand that you are choosing a form of disobedience when you choose to go a route that is away from where he has called you to. So most people, this is why you want to pray about your journey and what God has for you, because sometimes you will get rerouted, and just because you're getting rerouted doesn't mean that that is not going to happen for you. Now, whatever God tells you in his word doesn't come back to him void. And so if he make a promise to you, he is going to do it regardless. So if you know that he's planning for you to get married, you're going to have a partner along in your journey. Remember that your partner is human and they're going to be going through something. So that doesn't mean that you're not going to get married. But if they do take a route again and marry, it will delay you, or back you up. I also tell people that you don't want to work outside of God's will, because when you do that, you are running the risk of having to sacrifice that thing. So like if you have a child outside of God's will, it can become something that you might have to sacrifice later. If you get married outside of God's will and your spouse is, you got married to somebody else, and God wanted you to get married to somebody else, and or if you was out in the world and you just decided, hey, you gonna come back to your faith and you want to be underneath God's will, there it can happen. Don't think that it can't happen, that you don't lose your spouse or your child because that person is outside of God's will, or some way somehow it's going to affect God's plan over your life. So understand that this is why you want to really, really just wait on God. I know God's timing can get to people. It can be like, oh, you feel like you just been waiting so long, or it could be a death sentence. It feels like that to some people, but it shouldn't feel that way. Find enjoyment in what you're called to do, because there are things that there is going to become times where there's going to be delays on your part and delays on your spouse part, and then on your partner part, and then there's going to be things that you're going to be going through that they're going to have to wait on you, and then there's things that they're going to be going through and that you could be waiting on them. You want to be very appreciative and thankful and for God's grace and mercy for everyone. And that's due to when you get ready to be partnered up, everything is going to be out, like you idolizing. You don't want to idolize your partner or what they do. And God needs to break you out of that habit. You want to trust God with all your heart, because when you don't trust God with all your heart, your mind, body, and soul, when that trust is broken, what happens when somebody breaks your trust? You're ready to just throw them out the window and throw them away and walk away from them, and you just don't want no more parts of them. So whenever your trust is broken, you really need to go and talk to God, because it's very important for you to continue your journey. You can't continue your journey and you don't trust God, or you don't have faith in God. And God tells you that in the Bible too, as it's in Isaiah, where he tells you, if your faith is not firm, I cannot make you stand firm. So just think about that. Like if your faith, your trust is broken in me, we have no relationship because you don't believe nothing I say. Everything I tell you is going to be a lie or a question. You're going to question everything. And this relationship is just going to go nowhere. We're just going to be at a stop sign, just sitting there until we overcome this part in our relationship together. Now, Matthew 7, chapter 7, verse 15 to 20, or any verse that I read out of do this podcast will come out of the NLT version. I don't know why. I did post the amplified version of this verse that I'm about to read at the end of this podcast. So it tells you, beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep, but are really vicious wolves. You can identify them by their fruit, that is, by the way they act. Can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes or figs from thistles? A good tree produces good fruit, and a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. So every tree that does not produce good fruit is chopped down and thrown into the fire. Yes, just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions. Second to this, I want to say this too. Everybody that screamed that you got discernment to a level. You got it to a level. You, God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, they are there to tell you what is what. Do not lean into your own understanding, because then you become ignorant, and it's like you become boastful and arrogant in your own knowledge and your own ways. And God, remember, God and Jesus, their thoughts and ways are above ours. So you want to stay underneath them for every action that you're going to go, especially if you are out of God's will. Now, I say this because there are things it looks really good. And I know this from my own experience. So I went to go look at these apartments, right? And God had planted me already in this apartment that I'm in. And he's like, before I got here, he told me, you're going to go there and you're going to be planted there, and this is where you're going to build. I'm like, okay. Now, I was just having a rough season, and it was really bad. I was sent on an assignment. While I was there, I went to go look at these apartments. It was beautiful, quiet. I was like, thank God. Like, oh my goodness, because my neighbor does get on my nerves. And I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I was having these thoughts, like murderous thoughts, like, how can I get rid of this lady, we're not supposed to smoke in our apartments because the way the ventilation system is set up, we don't have windows in our bathroom. So we have these vents. They supposed to lead out into a hallway that goes down and gets rid of this, the smoke or whatever, and then the air from the bathroom ventilates out to in the middle of these apartments and then out this hallway. That's basically how the guy described it to me. Now, because my neighbor turns on the vent to get rid of the smoke was actually, every time if I turned mine on and she was smoking and using hers, it was backtracking and coming into my apartment. Now, I am highly allergic to like cigarette smokes, so it will trigger my asthma and my allergies at the same time. And it's just not a good look. So I had to, at the time I had to go to the doctors and get this whole letter to get to my landlord. They had to switch out my, give me a whole like filter ventilation system and stuff. And it was bad. So while I was down there looking, this is what promoted me to look. So I'm down there looking while I'm on assignment, and when I got back, I just really owned in on praying about it. But here's God. He goes, you can go. I will go with you when you go there, but I won't be with you the whole time that you're there. You would get there. I'll probably be with you about 3 months. But then you're going to be undoing everything that we had already worked towards where you was at planning. And you won't be going back to the you can't, when you leave from that part, you won't be able to get back to the part where you left off. It would take you 9 months to get back to where you trying to leave. And then you'll be undoing, throughout that whole 9 months, I'll be undoing all the work that I put in. So I would basically have to start all over again. So I was like, oh no, I don't want to start over because I already know what I went through and I already know I was like, no. Now see what, now if I was listening to somebody else and I was listening to all that fake food out there, like, oh, this is my season, this is where God want me to be because it's better than where I was at. Just because it looks good and it sounds good doesn't always mean that it's God. So you have to go back and remember what God had told you before he giving you a thing. Because before he gives you something, he's going to tell you about that. And you got to hold on to all the promises, instructions. Make sure you really copy down your dreams, instructions, and directions that he's giving you, because that's going to come in and play more so of the promises, because the promises ain't going to never go nowhere. You're going to run into them. If you're on the right path, you're going to come across that promise. It's already going to be naturally given to you. Now, if you are, when it comes to your directions, instructions, and dreams, you want to write those down, because that's where you're going to know that, okay, God is redirecting me or re-instructing me. And if I don't follow this, I can hit a storm that I shouldn't be hitting. Or even if he's like, hey, I'm going to be with you, then that's like, hey, a storm is coming up, but I need you to be prepared because I don't want you to fall. You're going to be impacted with the feelings and everything, but I'm with you. Remember this. So he'll say things like that, like, hey, I'm with you, or I'm going to go with you, because that means something is coming up and you're going to need him. But if you don't write that down or you don't remember that at all, what's going to happen is you're going to fall backwards. You're going to stumble, and then you're going to take a fall, like a deep fall, and you're going to crash. You might get depressed or whatever the case may be. And it's okay to feel, but remember, give yourself a little bit of time to feel, but don't just like shut God out. You want to talk to him while you're going through what you're going through, and that's going to help you. Trust me when I say that. This is why I tell people don't be so quick to look out the window and the door at somebody else's life and situation. Now, you can take a look around in the world and you would notice how there are more fake food being served than the real thing. It breaks my heart to see how there are more cookie cut churches than the real deal. The bride is precious to Jesus and God, so why treat it as it is nothing or something to be overlooked? If I am tired of it, I am for certain that God and Jesus is as well. I have decided to start going and visit different churches by starting in my area, from like small to mega, and there is no difference. The enemy has infected a lot of churches with false teaching that presents itself as the real deal, when in fact it is fake food. It looks and sounds so good, you continue to eat the infected food. People pray for discernment and then turn around in 2 seconds and ask chat GPT for an answer or summary, because it's faster than waiting on God. I can tell you that chat GPT has become your God, so it's no reason for God to even answer your questions or prayers. The truth that people need to come to terms with is themselves. Be honest with yourself. You want nothing to do with God or Jesus because it's just too hard. You'd rather take the easy choice or way out, when finding your life is going to be hard, as you don't know where you are going or how to get there without the guidance or leadership from God, Jesus, or the Holy Spirit. Only they can give you a clear direction or path to take. Only their instructions will make your footsteps imprints that other people can take a look at and follow to be able to overcome something that you have already faced. So, whose fault is it when you quit on God and Jesus? Matthew chapter 22 verse 29. Jesus replied, your mistake is that you don't know the scriptures and you don't know the power of God. This scripture alone answers that question. You are to blame. You don't know or understand the one and only true creator God, which means that the relationship that you have is truly a false God rather than the true God. I come to understand why most people don't read the Bible or read the Bible but can't understand what they are reading. This is due to their own selfishness, arrogance, and ignorance. They are choosing to believe the God that they have made up, not the God that we read about. So rather accept the God that they form. So they rather accept the God that they have formed and not the God that will be honest with them. That tells the truth. When the enemy lies, they accept it without a doubt. When God tells the truth, they treat it as a lie. You love the false God with the fake fool. It's the truth and you don't want to accept it, but it's the reason why the true creator God is not talking to you. When you choose to serve another God, why would the true creator God speak to you? He will not compete for your attention when he doesn't have to. There's a lot of people out here. It said many are called, but only few ever make it. Only a few, get there. And that's because most people start that discernment. You get cocky in it if you want to. And that's what happens. You will fall because the enemy knows the Bible, okay? He can present himself as, this is something from God. No, he gives out gifts too, but his comes with I'm telling you, like, it's just like you got short-term life policy. It'll come when it gets to that limit, and you don't know when that limit is up. It could be a year or two, but when he comes back, he's going to come back and collect, and he's collecting on you. Only God can cancel whatever he promised you. This is why I don't understand why so many people are teaching fake food, or like have a whole church that's dedicated to Satan, because remember, God is over everything. And if you serving the enemy, or you have another God, when storms and stuff come up, you can't blame God. You got to blame yourself. And if you don't get to heaven, you really don't have nobody to blame but yourself, because you're choosing to serve the enemy. Now, if you want to, it's worse if you are a Christian and you just, you come to a full understanding and you just feel like it just got too hard, and then you just stop and then you quit on God. It's just bad. I don't even want to know what happens doing that, but I do know that some people that just totally quit, and their life is just nothing what you would expect it to be, because it was like, yo, you were thriving. Yeah, you hit a hard season, but you are doing 100 times worse than if you would have just stopped and say, hey, I'm going to be comfortable in this season, but I'm not going to give up on God. But when you totally give up on God, after fully having an awareness and understanding of who he is, and then you just find it too tough and you walk away from your faith, I see people lives that they're like, they're thriving, but they're really not. And you can tell, like, if you see them beforehand and afterwards, which most people don't get that option to see, but I have, and it's nothing good come of it. And it's like, I don't even know if you can come back from that part, or if you want to. I just don't know. And it doesn't end well, because some people wind up taking the easy way out, that they think is the easy way out, but not knowing that you can cause your spirit to be stuck in that moment forever. Now, here's the thing with the fake food is you'll start to face some storms in your life, and then you'll start to ask God, like, where is he and why he's punishing you? And God response is Isaiah. I found one, Isaiah chapter 1 verse 5. It's like, why do you continue to invite punishment? Must you rebel forever? Your head is injured and your heart is sick. Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 15. Why do you protest your punishment? This injury that has no cure. Like, this wound has no cure. I have had to punish you because your sins are many and your guilt is great. Is it your guilt that has you asking God such a ridiculous question? Because you know what you have done to onset the correction that you are receiving. God has been trying to get your attention, and the only way that he could get it was by way of extreme measures. Never get to a point where your sins, guilt, or disobedience leaves God to take an extreme measure to get your attention. Nothing truly good comes of it. If you choose not to open your heart to listen to what God has to say to you, millions of people have died every day due to their own reasons. And I'm not just talking like about physically. I'm talking spiritually as well. Millions of people die every day. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 17. Get up and prepare for action. Go out and tell them everything I tell you to say. Do not be afraid of them, or I will make you look foolish in front of them. If you are truly following God, why the fear to be bold? If heaven's armies is backing you, God is in front of you, then why allow the enemy to take you out with just some strong winds? I sat quietly for a few weeks as people wanted to use their selfishness, arrogance, and ignorance to bully their own beliefs onto me. I cannot be bullied, and trust me when I say that um, when I can even tell you this, that my anger is enough to make demons run in another direction. It's why I choose to keep calm and walk away from people that are looking for a fight over scriptures. I am not willing to argue with you with your stupidity or whatever negative thoughts or feelings that you may have because you chose to not accept the words that you have read out of the Bible. If God said not to do it, then take your argument up with him. He has no problem with correcting you. I also am big on telling people to tell their stories because your background can help you understand and help people understand why you feel so secure in the wrong response about what you have read. Fake foods stop you from sharing your story or telling your testimony and avoiding your scars. Now, Isaiah 43 verse 4, others were given in exchange for you. I traded their lives for yours because you are precious to me. You are honored and I love you. It's like how beautiful to know that you mean so much to God that he not only shows you but tells you as well. Why not be bold and courageous in God, and a God who loves you and wants to have a relationship with you? What does Jesus' death truly mean for you? Ask yourself these questions and write them down. If you have a negative response, ask God to reveal why you are struggling with those feelings and emotions. God knows you. Don't be afraid to spend time with him. There are many people struggling with God. Many people struggling with why God is not talking to them. The question to ask yourself is, where is your heart at whenever this thought arises? Are you truly seeking God for a long-term answer or just a momentary answer? Do you want to know God and Jesus, or is it just to answer a momentary situation? The next time you start to struggle with something, ask yourself a question first and take the time to check your heart before pointing the finger at God as if he was the one running away from you or annoying you. So I hear this a lot when people are begin to struggle and they're like, well, where's God? And God and Jesus doesn't go anywhere. They're there. Now, Jesus is the master key, so he is, helping you on your journey to find your life. There are things that will show up. If you see it in your dream as a loved one is angry with you, understand that is Jesus, because you did something and you need to go ask him, like, what is it? Or he's upset about a situation and he's trying to get the attention of somebody that's close to you. It could look like that. And he needs you to go sit down and talk with somebody about something. Now, I do know that things that are important to God, and he will bring it up over and over again throughout a time period, especially when he's trying to reach somebody that is close by, near to you. He will talk to you about a situation. He may not even go into the full details, but you will see it as a frustrated situation. You will see it as an emotion in your dream, and it's coming from a loved one, and it's like that loved one could be the one he's talking about, and that that person is struggling, or a scenario he gives you, you recognize it, you know it, he wants to talk about that, sit in prayer and talk with him about that. Uh, there's These are some key points that I am giving you, by the way. So, you know, you want to recognize everything in your journey. You want to start a healthy routine for yourself. You do this by taking baby steps. For me, I wanted to stop with the bad language. It took me 3 years to overcome that. It wasn't overnight. So I had to replace it and learn. And now I realize that if it wasn't the environment that I was involved in or placed myself in, I would have never even picked up that bad habit, because when we were younger, we didn't. My dad did not allow it. You got in trouble for cursing. So that I they say you practice the sin, you do, and we practiced it, and that's how you picked up the bad habit. I wasn't like all crazy with. I know some people that's just like they just curse every other word, so or they just have something negative to say. I remove negative talk and bad language, and that took me 3 to 4 years to do. And I seen God's son model that, not just Jesus, the actual physical. His son, one of his sons, modeled that for me, and I love that about him. And I wanted to do that. So that was the first thing that I got rid of immediately. Well, tried to. It just took me years to do. I didn't know it was going to take that long, but it did. And you have to be in a healthy environment, headspace to be able to do that, to overcome that. And always, another thing that I developed was guarding my ears and my eyes. So to overcome that, I had to learn how to guard my ears and my eyes. So if they were, I had at work, I would wear headphones. I would be listening to the Bible sermons and gospel rap and Christian music to overcome all those bad habits, to develop a healthy heart, a healthy habit. That's how I did that. Even starting small as like even making your bed, because sometimes you would be like, oh, what's the point of making my bed? I'm only gonna get back in it. That can help you to start healthy habits by taking small steps. A clean house. You know why you clean? So a clean house gives you a clean mind, and it gives you a clean start. So it's like, you know how you go through seasons and you have that in season, out season. You get rid of things. It's the same way you want to do. You want to keep a clean house. Like you like your house clean. You want to keep your heart clean, your brain clear. And you only can do that if you have these healthy habits and you're practicing them every day. So, take moments out of your day to acknowledge God. They say acknowledge God in all that you do. You want to acknowledge God in everything. So you see something you like, just stop and have that conversation. Like, God, if this isn't the will for me, this is what I want. He's your father. He can give you those things. So why not take the moment out and acknowledge him? Like, even if I'm not even gonna lie, this is one thing I say this because I remember I was eating this type of seafood and God was telling me like, you're struggling with your breathing because you're eating that. You need to stop eating that. So that, he was right, of course. He created you, so he knows you. So I stopped eating it, and he's like, you can. So I remember for my birthday, I wanted to have this one seafood thing, and I had asked before I even went to the location, the restaurant, and I asked in advance, and it's like, you can have it this time. Even with drink, I don't drink. So if I know that like it's an event coming up and it's gonna have wine, I can also have that conversation with God about, hey, do you think I can have a glass of wine, or what you think about this event coming up? So I do that, and it's like, yes, because you want to be prepared before you go into where you're going. And if you know you have weak or spots or vulnerabilities to certain things, he knows you best, so he can guide you and lead you in that direction to take and go. So That's why I'm like, you want to acknowledge him in all that you do. And I, learn what kind of relationship that you want to have with God and Jesus. This helps you to figure out what kind of worship works best for you. Now, for me, I had I learned this over. It didn't take me like right away. So I started off with I'm a writer, so I started off with writing, and then I have always been good at it. Like it just comes to me naturally, and that was one of my gifts. You need to develop a gift that you own in on it because that's going to be a form of worship for you, and everybody don't worship the same. So when some people, when you start off, you think worship is just the singing. No, it's also affirmation, telling God He is awesome. You love Him. You love, the King. You tell the King, thank you for all that you have done. Just dying for me because, I was going to have my silly ways and that covers me. And I'm not going to feel God's wrath for being in that silly moment. And I really think it is God's grace and mercy if you get married early. If He's sending you to marry someone early, it is God's grace and mercy. Not just that, it could just be for that's what you're going to be called to do. Um, when you have this worship relationship, it helps you understand who God is to you, who Jesus is to you. That's why I was like, write down what does his death means for you. Cause I'm not even, I'm gonna be open about it. It was one of those days I struggled with. I'm not gonna lie. I struggled with it so bad that I would skip it. Anytime it came up, I barely wanted to go to church on Easter Sundays because of it. And I do remember that when I was younger, I would play outside on Easter Sundays. I would be playing outside with the guys, the boys, and stuff. And one Easter Sunday, my dad had to actually come to me and ask me to not only wear a dress, but to say, hey, can you just be my daughter today and not get, messed up or ruin your dress because you jumped a fence. So it was things like that I look at in my past that like now, that's for me it's a form of how like I develop my worship for who God is to me. And I say this because people say my God is a big God, but your storms that you face will tell you what type of God that you are serving. There's a God that we form, and then there's God Himself. I've been into Bible studies where people are skipping parts in the Bible that is like it's ugly. They was slaves, they was taken away and stuff, and people are like, oh, why does this happen? Nothing happened without God telling them in advance. If you read, that's the part of skipping, and I had to tell this group like, you don't understand what you're reading because you're choosing to pick what you're reading instead of reading the chapter before so you can understand what you're reading right now. And because you skipped these 3 chapters, you don't understand what this verse means because you skipped through 3 chapters. If you would have read those 3 chapters, then you can understand what you're reading right now. You chose to skip that chapter because you didn't want to see the part where God was burning down the whole city because they was wicked in their sins. People skip stuff like that. If you are one of those ones, okay, you're skipping it at the beginning. But understand that if you have a relationship with God, He's gonna point it back out to you. Like you can't skip that. That's a part of your journey. You need it. There is gonna be stuff that you're gonna face, but it's the makeup of you. And if you don't, you're not gonna like God, and you're gonna start to develop this part of hate. Now, I do know that I have recently come apart where people are, they say my spouse doesn't like me. And you got to figure out, it's just the same way. Like, okay, if you waited for God, this wouldn't happen. it wouldn't happen, because you would be talking, you would have a relationship with God, and God would be able to tell you, like, I'm not going to marry you off to my son or my daughter because right now they don't like you. They don't like you for some reason, and I got to go deal with that. So that would protect you, um, and it's something on it, and you just don't know, and God is dealing with them on that. So He would protect you from that. So He wouldn't just tell you get married. Now, if you got married for your own reasons, and your spouse don't like you or something, you can go years without knowing that your spouse, your partner, your husband or your wife don't like you or don't like something about you. You can go years blindly like that. Or you can get married, y'all get saved and stuff, and then God start revealing to both of you that, oh yeah, she don't like when you do that. Oh yeah, he don't like you very much. Um, she don't truly love you like that. Uh, if you get sick, he gonna leave you. So this is stuff that you not gonna want to hear, but God is honest with you, and that's he's gonna have an honest relationship with you. So if you get involved and you start your journey, and a lot of fake food is helping you avoid the truth, and it's doing more harm than good to you. It's hurting you to the point where you will start developing anger towards God. Anger towards God leads to hatred. And you don't know what else that anger does for you. It does something really nasty to the inside of you, and it causes you to not love and fall out of love. So this is why you need to watch your anger as well. That's why you need to develop a form of worship and how to worship God and Jesus and be grateful and thankful throughout your journey. There's gonna be stuff that you ain't gonna like to do. Hey, they don't have no problem, but they're gonna tell you why you need to do it. I remember I didn't want to get on a plane one time, and I'm like, do I have to? And Jesus was clear. He's like, if you don't get on that plane, this is what's going to happen to you. You won't be able to pay this. You won't be able to do this. And I was like, oh, no, don't even worry about it. I remember just taking my backpack and just get on a plane, because even though I didn't want to do it, it's like, I didn't know that all that stuff was going to happen to me if I didn't, if I fell out of, being, disobeying. If I was chose to be disobedient, that's what's going to happen to me. So worship also helps you be obedient, because you'll start looking over where God has brought you from. Never get stuck in a way or way of thinking, or just stuck in your own ways, and please get out of your own way. And if you have some thoughts and stuff like that, and you want something, submit that to God. Talk to God. That's why you have that relationship. So much it's an infection. Like I said, it's bad advice, fake food. You got people twisting the scriptures. I don't never want to be a Pharisee where I am charging somebody $500 just to get the God of Jesus. Like, who am I? I'm a human being. I should not be charging you arm and a leg to get to God and Jesus. Like, that is just beyond me. Especially if you got millions of dollars, like, I don't understand why people would do that to somebody. You're just gonna get in their way, and you never want to get in the way of God's glory. A storm is coming, and it's gonna impact not just one state or two states. It's gonna impact multiple states. There's gonna be a wide range of storms just hidden. And if you're not in God's will, you won't know how to withstand that storm. You think these micro storms, as far as like food going up, you losing your job, is something like that. This is all because people just started developing that me factor of themselves. Like, it's all about me. I have to get up and get it and grind, and I rest when I die. And you don't rest when you die. That just sounds ridiculous, because you may be going to hell, and you don't know if you just gonna be asleep. My understanding, you gonna be torture. So I don't think you're gonna get a period of, like, just, oh, I'm gonna be sleeping in heaven. Like, no. Um, so your journey is, it's a long journey because you're supposed to be forever learning and growing. So I don't know where people think it's supposed to be easy. You're gonna get these periods of your life where you're gonna be resting, and just like the Sabbath, you get a day off every week. Uh, that helps you understand all of that, and your relationship is your relationship. It's not gonna look like what I'm going through. It's not gonna look like what somebody else going through. It could look similar. We are all a part of one body. And I don't know why people don't want to do missionary work or be out there in the world, because look at Joseph. He did good. He was following God, and he wasn't called to serve in a church or be a priest or a pastor. So um if you there's other things for you to do. It's a lot of work out here. And I think it is annoying to me when that people don't do it anymore. They don't, or they charging to do it, to do their God given talent. And I also have come to find out that I thought that God gave everybody spiritual gifts, like, of dreams and stuff like that, but to even be a prophet, because it was just such on a rise, and never realizing until I started, going to different churches, that no, it is rare. Like, you can have dreams, but some of the dreams are not from God, and then you have dreams that where God is talking to you and stuff. That is rare, and it's so rare and spaced out. And I never realized that. I just thought that because I was out doing, missionary work out in the world, and helping people in the world, that I'm like, let me go to church because I'm gonna find more people that's gonna be like me. And I was wrong. I was wrong. It is a rare gift when you have gifts given from God. These spiritual gifts are rare. I didn't know that they were not just given to everyone, and I never recognized that. And I think that's why my dad at the moment knew that, hey, he recognized it earlier, that there's nobody that could help my daughter, so I'm gonna have to keep her close, because there's nobody that's gonna, understand her and what she's going through. And it's sad that there was nobody to help nurture me in that. And I had to spend a lot of time, and I do still spend a lot of time with my relationship with God and Jesus, and growing in my spiritual gift. You're gonna have, if you have a spiritual gift or talent, and it's God given, you want to spend a lot of time with God and Jesus, because otherwise, that fake food will have you dabbling in witchcraft. They're gonna tell you, you can make a lot of money off of that. Why don't you use your gift to make money off of that? Now, once you start using your spiritual gift to, you know, uh, capitalize, and you're like, oh, I can tell you this for a fee, you're gonna dabble in that rabbit hole of witchcraft, and you don't want to do that, because your spiritual gift is supposed to be used for the body. When somebody is praying or they struggling, God can tell you something. You can walk up to that person and say, hey, your child is gonna live. You're gonna be okay. And that is for the body, and that's lovely. Even sometimes in the world, like, I was able to tell somebody that was struggling with whether they should go back to school and what they should go to school for. And she thought that maybe she was just too old. And I told her, I was like, no, I had a dream, you were a doctor. And she was like, yeah, I didn't tell nobody that. I was struggling with this for like the last 5 days, and here you come. And I was like, yeah, I think you should go home and really pray about that, because if that's God is telling you to do it, you're going to need all the instructions that go along with that. And don't be afraid to be first in your family. I do believe that I am the first in minds, and which some people call like you're an outcast or you a black sheep. You're not a black sheep or an outcast. You stand out, and you have your relationship should be. It's gonna be like what you have Isaiah, Jeremiah. When you have that type of gift over your life, you want to look at the prophets that went before you, that had did it before you, and you see how they lived their life. And it's a beautiful thing, but then it was a burden at the same time. And I noticed, I learned from them that it's not it was very rare that they say send for a prophet and the prophet came and told you, oh yeah, this is gonna be. You had people that lied to them, and then you had the ones that was like, the true prophet came and said, hey, listen, if you don't do this, you gonna die, or if you do that, you will be killed in battle. And it's like, what they and I there's one king in the Bible, and he says go get I think it's Micah. He was like, and don't go get him. He never has good news for me. And sure enough, he said, oh yeah, you can go to battle. And he's like, don't lie to me. Tell me the truth. And like, yeah, you can go to lie. He's being sarcastic about it. It's like, no, you go to battle, you're gonna die. He didn't believe him. He went to battle and he died. So be very careful, because that's how you know a true God-given prophet. They have a legit reason behind what they are saying, and God has really guided them to say that. Because if you even look at how God is talking in the Old Testament, you can see that as well. He is he'll say, if you do this, you'll become this. If you don't do this. And I am one of those people that you can't sit up there, and I know this is how somebody cannot help me. I watch people, and I watch what they say, how they move. Are they loving and everything? Are they caring? And they words, when they say that these people worship me with their mouth, but their heart is not good. God never lied on that moment, because if you take the time out and you look at the people that say they are godly, they in that church, and especially the ones that tell you they've been there for 8, 9 years, 18 years, 14 years, and they have nothing to show for it, nothing godly to show for it, like they just don't. You need to stay away from them, or just ask God to give you another group to go to, or maybe he might be calling you to start a group that's different from what you're seeing. So don't be afraid to be the first one to do that. And please, and I ask you, after all my podcasts, I always tell people to go, have a conversation with God, go talk to Jesus, and so that they can lead you in the right way to go, because you don't want to fall back or stumble on your journey, and you want to fact check. I always tell people, go pray about it. I'm telling you something, I'm always going to tell people to go pray about it. You listen to this whole podcast, I'm praying that when you get off this thing, when this ends and it's finished, that the first thing you go do is go pray to God and allow him to speak to you and guide you and lead you from that point on into the next podcast that you're going to listen or read something from me. Because I want you to be successful, and I'm out to collect all my lost brothers and sisters and bring them home. I want to see God's glory, and I'm passionate about it. So I say, may the Lord lead your hearts into a full understanding and expression of the love of God and the patience, endurance that comes from Christ. May heaven's armies be with you all, wherever you may go. And God bless. I'll catch you in the next video. I love you all. Leave your testimonies and positive advice in the comments section. If you got nothing good to say, don't say it at all. Love you all. Catch you in the next video.